kicks it long, and Akers, no one on the mark. Oh, just missed it.
Blake Acres. Joe, I'm going to let you take this away. I'm just going to remind you that he's born on the 7th of October, 1995, played 145 games. Talk to me about Blake Acres.
Yep, he's the greatest player to ever pull on boots for this football club. Yep. Build him a statue, build him whatever he wants. Give him keys to the club, whatever. For the rest of his life, whatever he wants from the Carlton Football Club, just give it to him because he has solidified himself as as a cult legend forever among this generation of Carlton supporters. I'm telling you, any of us that have kids in like 20 years' time, 18 years' time, and there's some young buck that's coming through and they're like, oh, how good's this player? And you're like, mate, you don't know. You don't know Clutch. You don't know Clutch. We know Clutch. We saw Clutch. And multiple times we saw Clutch. Blake Acres is Clutch. He is, I don't know. Everyone fell in love with him this year, literally. And he was a bit of a whipping boy at times, especially early on. Like his disposal wasn't great, and that's what sort of stood out because we were shit. And like if you were shit when we were shit, then it was just more shit. And then like I don't know, kicked a clutch goal against the Saints, which everyone forgets about. Kicks a clutch goal against the Swans, fingertips, hair, whatever it was. Like he was literally in everything. He stopped everything. He won us games. What do you say about Blake Acres? Like, what do you say?
Yeah. My experience watching him is unique because usually when a player comes from another club, Adam Chera, for example, I'm a little bit surprised. I just wait till trade period and the player comes and then I've never watched them play and they start playing for Carlton and then that's when I learn. Acres, I distinctly remember at the end of 2022, we had been bundled out. Obviously, we lose to Collingwood, but the Acres talk was happening then. And so I took a really keen eye watching him play the last few games of 2022. And they played finals as well, I'm pretty sure.
He was their best. He was Freo's best in that final against the Dogs. He had a huge game that night. I remember I did the same thing. I was like, I'm gonna watch him to see what we're in for here. And I was very impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah. So I was ready for him being this big game player that he was because he was a big game player for Freo, especially in 2022. 23, I still remember round one. I think he might have had a contest which just didn't come off very well, and he copped a little bit of heat for it. You know, Carlton supporters were angry.
He dropped a mark. He dropped a mark on the siren, and he could have won us the game in that draw against the Tigers. Yeah.
That's right. And I remember his week after against the Cats, he played a really good game, 26 possessions, and he came out in the media and he actually addressed what had happened in round one. And he said, I let people down, whatever it was. And I really fell for him from that moment because I liked the honesty. I liked the humility. And then he just got more comfortable as the season went on. And then he became possessed. As we got later in the year, there's a passage of play. I think it was when we played, it might have been the semi. I don't even remember, but he ran with the flight of the ball into a pack just to create a contest. When he was injured, he was never going to get the ball. But like when you are not looking at the ball and you're running into a pack coming at you just to create a spillage for your teammates, that is the thing that personifies Blake Acres for me more than the clutch moments.
Yeah. Oh, he's another one that just shows up time after time at each contest. Like you kind of forget about him. Like you kind of forget that he's there, and then he'll do something like, oh, there's Blake. And then like it's like you get to the end of the game, he's like, and you're like, he had like 6 or 7 huge moments today, like out of nowhere. And he had 27 touches and he had all of this impact. So I remember the preseason game against Collingwood at Princess Park last year, which was the first time we obviously saw him in a Carlton uniform. And he was on one wing, Ollie Hollands was on the other. And obviously all the talk about us was we've recruited wingers, so how's that going to change our game plan? I remember me, Jules, and Dan went that day specifically to look at how we structured up. And Ollie, we looked at Ollie and went, he's going to play round one. He's ready to go. Like he's just gut running, works hard. Obviously, disposal a little bit questionable at times, but you could see that Ollie had it. And we looked at Blake, and I remembered I turned to Dan and I went, when's the last time you saw us keep our width on a park? because Akers just stood there in, no pun intended, acres of space, literally all game. Kept his width, didn't care about didn't get sucked into the contest. He didn't have to be that extra man. He was there, and time and again, the ball found its way to him on that wing, running inside 50. And I went, if that's what we're going to get from him all year, no problem. Like that's the player that we've recruited, and that's a role that he's going to play. Never in my fucking wildest dreams did I think that I'd fall in love with this bloke and he'd give all of us the greatest moment in our footballing lives to this point. Like, never ever would, if someone had said to me, he will be your finals player, I would have gone, if he's our finals player, then we're not playing finals because he doesn't have it. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. He's phenomenal.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal.
He's got it. I think maybe because we've been burned in the past with recruits and maybe a lack of trust with the club, maybe that spills over into new recruits. And, you know, his kicking efficiency was such a talking point throughout the year. And I never felt it the way it was being commented to me, because he's not meant to be pinpoint kicking. When you're a winger, it's a big portion of his role is the territory game and allowing us to move the ball up the ground. That doesn't, I mean, obviously you've got to kick the ball efficiently, but a lot of the time he will kick to a contest, or he will kick down the line, or, you know, he will just help us move our men up the field. And I think that gets lost in translation. And I'm hoping that now we've all built this trust with him. He's endeared himself to the club and the supporters, and he's really, you know, immortalized himself with us, so to speak, that there's a bit more trust. You know, I almost feel like if he's not kicking the ball out in the full at least once per game, then it's not Blake Acres. I don't want it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just the Blake Acres out in the full.
I think he had something like, I can't remember if it was the third or fourth most clangers in the history of our club in a season. But who cares? Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like you said, that's not his role. Like, his role is to, one, like you said, gain territory, but two, make sure that the opposition doesn't gain territory coming the other way. And he runs harder than anyone else on this team to get back behind the footy. He is in everything. Every passage of play, he is there. So, yeah, my trust for Acres on that wing is it'll never, ever be questioned again. You can never question that again after what we saw this year.
No, the work rate is immaculate. I mean, he takes 5.5 marks a game, which ranks elite in the competition. And whether they're uncontested or contested in this regard is irrelevant to me. And the reason why I say that is because, again, we talk about gaining ascendancy with the territory battle. You need to take marks around the ground and be able to do that. I was also taken pleasantly by surprise at how good he is in the contest. When we lost Chera, when we lost Walsh for those few games in the back end of the season, he started stepping up with his ability to absorb a tackle just like Walsh and Chera would, and get the chains moving as well. So there are other uses for him. But, you know, when you think about Acres in 2024, how do you, I mean, is it just much of the same? Just do what you normally do, or do you want to see a bit more time?
Yeah, I'm not
inside, or
I think having the expectation that he's going to be a match winner for us is probably too high. Like, sure, if he does it again, sure. Like, he's just got that clutch gene. We've seen it. He can produce it. We know that he can produce it. I'm not going to be looking to him to produce it, because I think that should be left to the Walshes and the Cheras and the Charlies of the world, right? That is their domain. He played a nice little cameo, and he'll forever be etched in the history of this football club. But I think it would be unrealistic to look at him as, Blake Acres will get us out of tough situations. He probably won't. Like, he probably won't have those moments again, right? That was lightning in a bottle. That's all that was. Potentially, right? I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Happy for you to be wrong.
I'm more than happy to be wrong on that one. But for 2024, it's just more of what we were just talking about then. Work rate, keep your width, keep that structure across the ground for us so that we can get the ball out into space and we can gain territory, and then just keep running two ways like he was all year, and step into the midfield when we need you to. That's it. That is his role. And he played it to perfection and some in 2023. And that additional lightning in a bottle that we got, if he's got more of that, bring it on. If he doesn't, then just play your role, and I'll be more than happy with whatever Blake Acres produces across 2024.
Fair. Nah, it's a fair call. On that note, we'll leave it there. So that's Blake Acres heading into 2024. Let us know what you think in the comments about him. You can reflect on his 2023 if you like, but what do you think about his prospects for 2024?